Welcome to the Scrappy Entrepreneur Podcast, the show that brings you practical, informative tips from the trenches to help you thrive and prosper as an entrepreneur. Whether you're just beginning your journey or working to grow your existing business, this show is for you. And now, your host, the original Scrappy Entrepreneur, Paula Y.
So Ken, welcome to the Scrappy Entrepreneur Show. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I've known Ken for how long now?
I think it's going on 10 to 15 years, somewhere in there, right?
I think 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've known Ken as a very successful entrepreneur, and I'm so excited to have him here. I've learned so much from him myself. He has been instrumental in helping me build my company, Mass Media. He's helped me engage in additional educational opportunities, and I thought that bringing him here would help all of you learn as well. But just a little background on Ken. So he is really an icon in the HVAC plumbing industry. He right now is CEO of Goodrich Air Conditioning. Again, he's a serial entrepreneur. He's built over $150 million HVAC plumbing enterprise. And he's just a real great person. So Ken, give us a little bit about your background.
Okay, well, one of our radio advertisement kind of tells the story, which starts out with, I was a 10-year-old boy holding a flashlight for my dad while he worked on an air conditioner for a customer. And so I started out 10 years old and helping my dad and holding the flashlight and bringing him tools and such at nights and on weekends when he would moonlight repairing people's air conditioners. And then as he started his own company, I worked, every weekend and every summer for him.
Like in high school?
In high school, right. Up until the point where I got to the point when I was 16 where I would start running my own service calls because I got a driver's license. And so I've been in it all my life and went to college at UNLV and studied finance. And as soon as I got out, I was getting job interviews, and they were offering me entry-level positions at banks and such, and I was making double fixing air conditioners. And so I kept with the air conditioning, thinking that I was going to build my own business. And my dad, unfortunately, passed away about that time, and I was 25, and I bought the business from my mom. And I set out on the journey of being a business owner and the challenges of that.
That's amazing. So you thought, I'm just going to take over my dad's company and go right into entrepreneurship rather than going and getting a job somewhere.
Correct, yeah. And, my dad had kind of, I remember when I'm growing up, people would say, why are you so hard on him? His name was Duncan. Oh, Duncan, why are you so hard on him? And he said, if I don't teach him anything, I'm going to teach him how to make a good living. And so, he spent all that time making sure I knew how to do a good job and take care of customers and be responsible and, understand the meaning of money and work and how it relates to making money and such. And so I was just raised in that environment. And then I took over the business, which was nothing more than one van. My mom answered the phone and did the books, and I did the work.
And you're 25.
I was 25, yeah. By the time I was 27, and I was going to grow that business, and so I had hired employees, and I bought vans, and got fancy lettering on them, and got me a new location, and I had several people in the office, and my mom had retired, and I was a big businessman. Bought me some new duds, slacks, fancy shirts and shoes. Got rid of the work truck. Got me a BMW. I was taking 2-hour lunches where all the big wigs would lunch in Vegas. And, I was a big business guy. And one day, I pulled up the office in the BMW, and some guy walks up to me and says, hi, my name's Chuck, and I'm from the Internal Revenue Service. And he gave me his business card. And he said, we need to talk about your payroll taxes. You owe us $76,000. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot today, but, this was 1988. And I said, okay, what's payroll taxes? And he quickly showed me what payroll taxes were. And, came down with guns and badges and seized the operation and my bank accounts and everything and set me into a whirlwind of despair. And someone had given me this book a week before. Actually, a good friend of mine had given me this book before called The E-Myth by Michael E. Gerber. And it's why most small businesses don't work, or why most businesses don't work and what to do about it. And so, after the challenge that day with the IRS, I started looking at that book, and I was so intrigued by it because this guy had pinpointed exactly everything I'd been doing wrong. It was in the book.
Like what?
Abdication instead of management, or doing the work of the technician rather than the entrepreneur, and understanding that a business is really a set of systems that people follow, you train your people to follow, rather than everyone just out there doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I read through the book one night, and over the weekend I read it 2 more times. And I just set out. I was too embarrassed to go tell my mom that I had blown up the family business inside of 2 years that my dad had ran for 20 years. And so I just kept quiet, and I kept gutting it out and working through the challenges I had and using this book as my guide.
So was the thing that was gutting the business, was it just the payroll tax issue, or was it other things?
Well, funny you should ask. So I go to my bookkeeper after the gentleman from the IRS stopped by, and I said, how come we haven't been paying the payroll taxes? And she said, because there's never any money to pay for the payroll taxes. So,
Got it.
No, I wasn't running a good business. I was just getting business and doing business, but it wasn't a true organized business enterprise that manages and creates profits.
I only ask because as running mass media early on, and even up to 10 years ago, I've always had trouble dealing with the financial side of the business. I was really good at marketing and meeting people and bringing in clients. But when it came to managing the financial aspects of the company has always been one of my biggest challenges. So finding the right people, what are some of the changes you made in your financial department to make sure that, was it a new leader to help you or?
Okay, so the first thing we did is in the book it describes, and this is not an endorsement for the book, by the way. This is just how I got here. But, it said count everything, right? So we just started getting the basic routines of keeping score and counting things and job costing and understanding the relativity between the work and the money and the time and the money. And so, I'd taken some other classes and just trying to being a student of business found out that let's assume for just a moment, I got this statement, and I put it on my wall in my office. It said, let's just assume for a moment that we're in business to make money. And it kind of stuck with me. And when I realized we're here to actually make a profit, I started thinking about the business in terms of the profits and not the gross revenue. And
Right.
So understanding how the machine worked and how I created revenue and what my costs were to create my gross profits or gross margin percentages and controlling my overhead and creating a profit. So I started targeting my goals rather than revenue on profits. And that kind of forced me to look at that every single day, certainly by month. And then the next step as soon as I did that, that's when QuickBooks came out. And so, I had hired a bookkeeper and she would key everything to QuickBooks. But every night for several years, I would go home and I'd look at the QuickBooks file and I would look at every transaction, make sure it was coded correctly. And I really just got a feel and internalized the numbers. So I knew, after a while doing that, I knew cause and effect on everything inside the business, right? We sold this type of job, and here's the cost associated with it. And here's the money associated with it. Here's the time associated with it. And then here's the overhead and how that can impact. I mean, you could work so hard during the month and have a challenge with your overhead. In my business, a truck engine blows up, or, you overspend on marketing, and you see clearly we did all that work. And I used to tell everybody, think about all the time and energy that all of us put in this month to go out and meet with customers and do our jobs and do a great job and give it our all, and the risks that we took. In my business, we climbed in attics and we climbed on roofs and we drove around and we did all this hard work. We dealt with high voltage and high pressures and temperatures and welded, and we did all this stuff, and we didn't make any money, or we only made this little amount of money. And it just kind of forced myself and my team to manage the money. That's kind of how I got there. I can't say there was any magic pill, and there certainly wasn't any magic system I found. The magic system I found was I disciplined myself to look at my books every single day, every single transaction, until I clearly internalized how they related to each other and how I kept some money at the end of the month.
So can I go back to when you said you took over your father's company and you started hiring people? What gave you the confidence to do that? Because I run into so many entrepreneurs that think they want to do it all themselves, and they won't hire people, or they won't move off tasks that really aren't best suited for them. They want to figure it out, do it themselves rather than work on the business. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So, I think I grew up in the trade, and I've done the work so long. By the time I got into business, I'd been, up on roofs for 20 plus years by the time I opened my company, and I was only 25, right? Well, that math doesn't work. I was up on roofs for 15 years, right? Mm-hmm. And so I just didn't want to do the work anymore. So I just had to go get somebody to do it. But as I have evolved and to learn to understand business, if you're going to do the work, you don't have a business, you have a job, right? And you have a lunatic for a boss, which happens to be you, because only a lunatic would set out to be in business, first of all, because the failure rates are so high and the time and energy is so high and the cost of you and your family is so high that, all of us listening to this podcast probably have a little bit of lunatic in us. So you got to manage the inner lunatic and come out of that and understand a business is an organization created by you with a set of systems that can produce predictable good service to their customers at a price that yields a profit or a return for the shareholders, you. Okay? Without your daily involvement. Now, I know there's people who love their business, they love to be a part of it, it's their craft, it's their art and such. However, just be mindful that you don't have a business if it doesn't work, if you don't show up, right? That's not a business, that's a job. Right. And so, I just wanted a machine. It's like, I've had a hobby since I was 16 years old, doing fixer-upper houses and flipping them. So I'm on number 409.
Wow.
As kind of a Saturday hobby thing I've done. But I look at building a business like this, fixing up a house, right? You look at the situation, you say, okay, here's what's going to make it nice, appealing for someone else to buy. And here's the investment of time and money I'm going to put in it. And we put that time and money in it, and we clean it up, we fix it up, make it look more beautiful than it started, and we sell it for a profit. And that's how I kind of morphed into my business. I look at each of my businesses as, an investment of time and money that should yield some positive cash flow over the years, and then I can sell it for a multiple of those cash flows in the future.
So you went on to build many air conditioning companies and sell them. Can you give us a little overview on that?
Okay, so once I got through the IRS challenge when I was in my 20s, and I had gutted it out, and I had figured it out with the help of this E-Myth book and some other, trainings and such that I got in books that I had read. And, back then the internet wasn't around. Not that I'm dating myself, but it wasn't there. So I became somewhat of a business turnaround expert, certainly in this trade that I'm in, because I had turned mine around and it became very successful. So I was able to pick up 2 more businesses in Las Vegas. One was in bankruptcy. And so I don't know, I'm this 28-year-old kid, and I went to the bankruptcy court and went to the judge and said, I can fix this company, and they gave me the business. And I took the business, and I worked with the creditors, and I put it on a plan, and I fixed it and paid everybody back, and we moved forward. And the other one was a guy wanted to retire, and so I made a deal with him. So I had 3 different businesses running at the same time in Vegas, kind of competing against each other, all kind of using my formula. And
so you created a business structure, an operational structure, and you started infusing it into other businesses.
Right.
Okay.
But in the same space. So I think, I'm in the air conditioning plumbing business, but I'm a business builder now. Like, I can buy broken companies or well-ran companies and implement new systems to grow them or to improve them. That's what I do. So anyway, as it went on, company came to me, said we're rolling up the HVAC and plumbing industry, and we'd like to buy your company.
How old were you then?
I was 33.
So you're 33. Is it a big national company?
It was a national company, yeah.
So they come and they offer you
more money than I thought I could ever spend.
On the 3 companies?
On the 3, yeah.
On the 3. Did you sell it?
I did, and you can spend a lot of money. If you really set your mind out, you can really spend a lot of money. So, no, it was more money than I thought I would ever spend. It was a nice chunk of money, and I wanted to get out and try something new else. So I did the deal. So I
You didn't have to stay?
Yeah, I stayed for a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah. So I stayed there for a couple of years, and in that couple of years, I got to travel around the country and see other air conditioning kind of companies, and my eyes were opened because there were so many companies out there that were so much better than mine. And I thought I had a pretty good thing going. And they were so much better and more profitable and just better ran. And it got me excited about the industry again. I said, I'm going to do this again. So I lived out my non-compete, and I bought another company here in Las Vegas. And it did $300,000 in total sales the year before I bought it, okay? And I bought it on a July 1st of 2000. And so I had 6 months to operate it for that year. What they did at 300,000 sales, we did 3 million.
Wow, 3 million.
Yeah, so we 10x'd it. And then we continued on, and we went down that journey and built a company here in Las Vegas called Yes Air Conditioning and Plumbing. And
how did you 10x it? Was it just your formula?
Well, it was the formula. It was the fact that we had systems that I had created over the years, proven good business systems. For instance, the 3 fundamental systems you need is a lead generation system. Okay, here's how I'm going to attract customers, right?
Sales and marketing.
Lead conversion, which is sales, right? So I got the lead, I convert it to a sale. And the third one is the client fulfillment system. So here's how I'm going to do the work. So here's how we install an air conditioner here every time, every single time, just this way, perfect. That way, we have happier customers, we don't have callbacks, we don't have challenges. And I challenge you to find anyone, certainly in these markets that I do business in, to have a similar system, because I don't see it. We have the manuals, we have the training, we have the quality control after. They don't leave the job until the manager looks at the pictures and says, yep, it's done our way. It's our McDonald's Big Mac is made our way.
Mm-hmm. Did you create those original systems, or did you have managers that would do that to create the template for how things were going to be done.
Right. So first I started figuring out the systems, right? And they started nothing more than checklists. Here's how you open up in the morning. Here's how you close at night, right? Here's how we price something. I started developing them. And then as I went on, I got my managers involved. And so I started sharing the vision of where we want to go to the company. It's really interesting to me how you get your team around you and you share a vision about the company, where we're going to head, and you describe some things that, that might be bigger than their dreams, and they'll rally around that. I mean, people want to come to work for a place that is bigger than themselves, right? And they're energized, and they're doing great things, and they're part of something. So I learned that pretty quickly, and so that's how I started doing it. And then we would have breakfast meetings every 2 weeks, and we would identify what we call key frustrations. Okay, so here's key frustrations inside the business. Like, we always get unhappy customers who call us on the weekends because we don't answer the phone. So we figure out what to do. We make the system for answering the phone on the weekends. Or, we always have this problem with this type of job. We figure out what to do. We document the system. We train the system. And so I had all the key people of the company to start to contribute. And they would, and I just showed them an easy method to write a system. It's a checklist, right?
How do you ensure consistency over the long term on that? Once the system's put in place and a manager's overseeing their department with that, if the manager leaves, how do you make sure that system keeps rolling on?
Okay, good question. So,
I had that problem myself.
Okay, so one is in our latest enterprise, Gettle, we have the Gettle Way, right? So we have the Gettle Way manual, and it's broken down into what we call our 7 pillars or 7 centers of management attention: leadership, management, money, marketing, lead generation, lead conversion, client fulfillment. Mm-hmm. And so all the systems go in there. And then, when we lose a manager, we don't want Groundhog Day. We got to start over all the time. So the new manager comes in and, he's trained on that role with those systems. Now, interesting enough, there's new software out that I was looking at just today. And I'm not advertising for it. I haven't tried it out. It's called Trainial. And Trainial, you take your business systems and they're alive, right, on the software. And everybody who's affected by this particular system, mm-hmm. if there's a change in the system, then they're notified of the change. There's a video of the training and whys, and they take a quick little test, and okay, they got it. Now that new piece is inside the system, then the system moves forward, right? So remember, this is one thing that I try to impart upon everybody I talk to about business. A business is a set of systems that deliver to the customer a great experience and to the shareholders a great profit.
Right. Well, you are an amazing leader because you've built up all of these companies and you have a great following of employees. How did you become such a good leader of people?
Probably trial and error. In the beginning, so I was raised by a very hard Depression-era guy that was just very hard and tough and no nonsense and no room for negotiation. And so that's how I started. And I noticed I ran off more people than I could hire continually. And so I think out of my failure, and I wish I could do this for my kids. I wish I could have them have a big failure, right? Because out of the failure becomes your character, right? And it becomes your character and who you are and your why. And so my big failure, I think, created that and humbled me and kind of got me to wake up somewhat and made it understand that, there's so much more finesse that has to happen with your people and your team than just being a taskmaster, right? So I started working on those skills. I think there's probably, some casualties over the years that probably still define me as a very tough, hard taskmaster. But as you grow and you season yourself a little bit, you kind of get past those skills. And then I've taken a lot of leadership courses and a lot of leadership training, and this is the hardest one, leadership statement that I try to focus on. It's very hard for me, and which is great leaders are great actors. In other words, a great leader doesn't let his emotion get in the way of leading his people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a great leader might not tell you exactly what he's thinking. He wants to teach you about the result or take you to the result. And so that's hard for me because I've always been, what you see is what you get, very transparent. And, I'll tell you exactly how you think, whether you like it or not. So that's a hard one for me, but I work on that continuously and I see the results from it.
So how else do you work on that? And was there any classes or books that you read to work on that people could look to for help in that?
So I think the most impactful book that I read on the topic of leadership is the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
Okay.
And so I study that book all the time. And I've applied those laws, and most of my management team has read that book, and we continually stay up on those laws. We use them as jargon around the company.
What are the best aspects of a high-performing team? How do you get the team? I know you as a leader have been working on improving your skills, and your managers improve your skills. How do you all bring it together to be a high-performing team?
Okay, so I would say the first thing that you do is you have to count everything, right? You have to be a metrics-driven business, right? And then you pare down those metrics to the vital few metrics. And what I mean by metrics is, what's your closing percentage? How many times did I present a sale and close the lead? And what's the average ticket? And, how many times did the phone ring? And how many times did I answer it? And how many times did I book a call? And there's all the things associated with really the three pillars of lead generation, lead conversion, client fulfillment. And so once you get your set of metrics in place, you're counting. Then now you can have an intelligent conversation with your people, right? It's like if you don't have metrics, it's like playing golf and playing a round of golf, not keeping score and feeling like you did a good job and you hit some good shots, patting yourself on the back, and you might have shot 100, but you don't know, right?
Right.
And so once you start having a metrics-driven business, that will start you working towards better performance and higher level of accountability. And you certainly have something to hold somebody accountable to at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that we implemented to that point is this is a challenge for every business. It's the job description, right? The arduous job description. And so we found a form that's called the position agreement. And the position agreement is a little different, and we try to use it as a interactive form, a tool for the managers to manage their people. But here's the position, and here's the results that position is going to create by doing it correctly. This is the results. The results are, all the installation jobs will be timely and will be timely, professional, and meet the company standards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then here's who reports to you and who you report to, and here's their results. So it's tying this thing together. Like imagine yourself as an orchestra, and you're playing the flute, and I'm playing the trumpet, and this one's playing that, and here's everyone's bit. Here's everyone's part to make that beautiful music, right? And so the position agreement is kind of that tool to do that, right? You answer the phone. You put the air conditioner in. You do this, right? And so the position agreement is like a powerful tool we've used. And so it's who reports, the direct reports and what's their result statement, as well as the strategic work that you do, the tactical work that you do, and then the metrics that will your job will be kept scored by, right? So everybody in the company, you need to make sure you're putting out daily metrics. This person does that. I counted it.
So you're looking at daily metrics, not just monthly or annual. You're looking at daily metrics of a position.
Well, we're gathering them every single day. So in our management team, we call it our DSC, Daily Strategic Compass call, right? So keep us on due north, right? And so every Tuesday and Friday, it's about an hour to hour and a half call, and everybody goes through their metrics. And sometimes I'll get on there and I'll talk about cause and effect. Okay, this is why your numbers are the way they are. This is the cause. This is effect it brings. And it's a teaching thing, right? Twice a week.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we've done that for 20 years.
So you and I attended a seminar together in Newport Beach, California called MAP, and that really helped me create what you are calling these vital factors around a company. What are the vital things that you should be measuring, because what's measured is focused on. Right. So are you still on that system today, would you say?
I am. It's a key part of our business. We have MAP consultants. So right now we have 6 branches around the country, and a MAP facilitator comes and leads our management meetings every month. We have quarterly meetings with the key management people, and we use the MAP team to facilitate our annual business plan. So
the annual business plan too, I see, and I learn from so many companies out there that they don't even have a plan. They don't have goals. They don't have any kind of plans. They're just going. Can you talk a little bit about how important that is? Goal setting?
Well, okay, so a couple things on that topic. Number one, I don't know why this is, but I have accomplished every single goal I've set out to accomplish, right? Every single one I set out, anything I could put in my mind, I've accomplished because I put it in my mind, and it dictates the behavior on where you're going to go. Except maybe my 34-inch waist goal. I haven't accomplished that one yet, but everything else I've accomplished.
It's pain and pleasure, right?
Yeah. And so I'm really stressed the importance of setting these goals. And my regret on goal setting is I wish I would have made bigger goals because I got them all.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just imagine if I would have set bigger ones, right?
Right.
So for every, we're very big on goal setting on everything, even to the extent now, our narrative in every meeting is, before we start the meeting, what's the goal? What are we coming away from this? Because let's don't waste our time, right? And so we set the goal and we just go after that goal. We write it down and we push towards that end, right? My guys always laugh. It doesn't matter what we do, I'm moving it up, right? Like when they're like, we
hit it.
We did $1 million in a month, and I'm like, that means we can do $1.5 million. If we can do that, we can do this, and I just keep pushing the bar up, pushing the bar up. In my particular business, the average HVAC plumbing contractor does about $1.5 million, maybe $2 million a year. The average one. There's 100,000 in the U.S. We'll do 150 million this year.
That's
right?
amazing.
When I bought Gettle, I bought it in 2013. So think about this. This little venture from Gettle, I bought it, it did $11 million LTM, or the 12 months prior, right? Losing $250,000 a month. So that's what? 7 years ago? We'll do 150. And it's all from goal setting and my just, I'm just ratcheted up every time. Where can we go? Where can we go? What can we accomplish? What can we build together? And, we've just created this culture of high level of accountability, growth, and success. Another key thing I got to tell you about, though, is, one, we reward our people very well. We have bonus programs on every single role, and everybody has an opportunity to, make far exceed what that market pay is for that role. And then my key people have been participated in every one of my transactions.
Meaning they've received money?
Yeah. So they've had wealth gains on every one of my transactions. So right now, I think in this particular deal, we probably have 15 key people that all are driving to another exit.
That's amazing. And keeping on the employee route, it is so hard to recruit in this this time. Jobs are hard to fill. So I wanted to dive in a little bit right now on that. How do you recruit to get the best players with it being so competitive out there? Do you have any recruiting secrets?
I do. So let me say this. I tell this to people all the time. They're talking, especially in the trades. It's so hard to find people. And I said, guess what? It's been hard since I started in 1986. It's always been hard to find good, skilled people, right? And so, here's what I've learned over the years. One, your business has to be a school for your employees. You have to create a school. You should create the school first. You should create a school, well, like one of your business associates did, right? He became wildly successful because he owned salons, but he started the school first, right?
Correct.
So your business has to be a school for your employees. So that should be a continued piece of your business and a continued big investment in your company, right? Then you got to have a daily, I call it 52-week recruiting going on, right? Every single week recruiting has to happen. You got to get somebody in your business. Their whole role is to fill the seats, right? If you're going to grow, you got to be able to fill the seats. So you're training people, you're recruiting people that have the skills. And then another thing that, I do different than I think a lot of my competition does is anyone I see in my business, I make a point to go meet them and talk to them. Like I just network. Like I collect business cards. And we get those business cards, and some of my other key managers do. It's hard to do, but they do it, and we create a database, and we just stay connected with those people, newsletters, email blasts, and it's just part of our DNA. So we're working as hard on recruiting people as we do on recruiting customers.
That's amazing. That's a really good tip. So you're driving, selling all these businesses, recruiting, working so hard. One of the things that I really want to focus this podcast on for entrepreneurs is, what have you learned over the years in regards to de-stressing and having fun? A lot of us work so hard for so long and we didn't have a lot of fun. So can you tell me about how you remain looking so young?
Well, so I, everything we learn is out of, either academics or failures, right? So I certainly struggled with that for a long time. I think that once I got to the point where I figured out that the business is not me. It's something I own. And it's something that my job as the leader or CEO of the company is just to lead my people in the right direction to accomplish our primary aims, right? To accomplish our goals, but to lead them in the right direction, not to go do it, right? And so all the stress and everything comes from the doing it. And so I live a pretty stress-free life. I run a nice business and I come in, I strategically place my time when I come in, and I make sure when I do come in, it's effective time. I know exactly what I need to accomplish, and I get it knocked out and I get away from it. And I don't let this vortex suck me in and take all my time and my energy and de-stress me and stress me. And so consequently, what do we do? I spend a lot of time with my children who are now young adults, and we travel a lot, and just bought a new house in Scottsdale, and we hang out there a lot, and watch the wildlife and golf, and just that stuff, right? I don't have anything, any exciting hobbies like Iron Man or what's those new things where they have the competition, they get knocked off the into the pool and all that. What's it called?
The American Ninja?
Yeah, not American Ninja. we like to travel, just enjoy life.
What are your kids? What advice do you give to your kids? Are you raising entrepreneur kids? Are they excited to go into business for themselves? What's your relationship with your kids?
Okay, so I have my continued message to my kids is get the college degree, and my view on the college degree is it's learning how to learn. Right, it's truly learning how to learn and getting interested in things that are topics that are, not basic reading and writing, right? And topics that may interest and stir up some creativity, right? Mm-hmm. So let's get that out of the way, and then never work for anyone ever. That's always been my narrative. And so my daughter, for instance, when she was in the 5th grade, she decided she was going to have her own record label, right? And so I'm thinking, all right, she's hearing the message, right? So she worked on record label, and she planned her record label, and has had this music vision ever since. She went to USC and graduated with a degree in business and music industry. Worked at several labels. Ended up at a artist management firm and manages
artists,
top artists. Yeah, right.
Sweet.
And she's the top agent, and she's been there for 2 years.
That's awesome.
Now, that said, she's working for somebody. But the other day, she gave me a little ray of hope. She said, "Dad, I think I can do this better than my boss." And so, I said, so, how would you structure your business? What would it be different? And she had some, very thoughtful answers on how she would do it. So, let's see. I think that's the direction she's going to head. But how did I get her there, for instance? So, I have the fixer-upper house hobby, right? Mm-hmm. And so when she was 16, I bought a house, fixed her house, and said, okay, you're going to do it, and we're going to split the profit. And so I gave her my system, right? My checklists, my schedules, my budgets, and I coached her, and she put it all together, and she did a house and flipped a house and made a little chunk of money, right? And then my son at the same time, not at the same time, but my son the same thing. When he was 14, we did a house, and he kind of got the bug. It's very rewarding to take something that's most people look at as ugly or not good and turn it into something great. And so he got that bug. He took a house, and it was just, had some bad tenants and was disrepaired and everything. We gutted it, put a new kitchen in, new floors, new bathrooms and everything. And he made a chunk of money, but he just really loved the process. So he's actually studying real estate development.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So, sounds like he's heading his own business way too.
That's amazing. Final set of questions is I want to talk about negotiation, because I know that you are known to be a really tough, great negotiator. So I was hoping we could tap into your knowledge on that. Where did you get your negotiation skills for buying and selling these companies?
Okay, so I learned a great lesson when I was going to UNLV, and I had this real estate investment class. And the instructor said something that impacted me. And these are the reasons why I think I want my kids to go to college. But, I don't want them to have drone jobs, right? I want them to have their own business, and maybe even businesses that are not taught in college, right? But he said this. He said, whatever it is, whatever you can come up with in any negotiation, ask it. All they can say is no, right?
Right.
But you might get a yes, right? And so I really didn't try to reinvent the wheel on that one. I just did every negotiation. I just started asking for stuff, right? And lo and behold, it depends, lo and behold, I started getting it. And so in every single time, I would make the ask more and more outlandish, like things that no one ever asked for. and I seem to get them. And so I just really think it's I fell into that and I started asking. That's it. Nothing.
So just the confidence to ask.
Just to ask, right? The next thing is buying the businesses. So I got a knack for that. But I think the knack came from this. Again, go back to the failure. No one knows how hard it is to run a business more than I do. The struggles and the challenges, because I burnt mine in an epic manner, right? And so I know the struggle to get out of that. And so when I talk to business owners, I'm looking at buying their businesses, I can speak to them in their language and I can speak to them with respect, no matter where they are at, right? Small company, failing company, wherever they're at, I've been there and I talk to them with respect and admiration for the hard work they have put in it. And I clearly understand that, this is a man's life or their family's life work. And so I do not ever say anything disparaging about it. And I listen and I build a rapport, and then we really speak to not what they think it's worth or what they need to make. I just speak to, this is how a business gets bought in our industry. This is the formula. I didn't invent the formula. It is the formula. That's how they all get done. So let's see how yours fits in the formula. And so I think because of the level of respect and rapport that I created, they buy the formula. And it's not any fancy negotiation. It's just purely, I just keep to the facts.
That's good. Is there anywhere people can turn to learn more about negotiation skills? Did you further your education in that area, or was that you just learned from taking one deal to the next?
I think it's just, OJT.
Yep.
But I just ask. Just ask. Once you start getting some of the asks, you'll get more confidence. You'll keep asking for more.
Well, as we wrap up, I just wanted to say thank you for coming in. Is there any last parting advice you would want to give to entrepreneurs out there?
Okay. So I would just say, I've been there. I mean, there's some daunting days and sleepless nights, but just stay focused. Stay focused on your vision of the company. Make sure you paint yourself a vision of the company. What's it gonna look like when I'm done? And stay focused on that, and let all the detractors and everything come in your way that's trying to stop you from getting there just be passersby, and keep moving forward and go get it. And find some sort of system. And it doesn't have to be the system I talked about. Just find a system to stick with, and don't try to get 4 or 5 different books and systems. Just pick one. They all do the same thing, and go after it and apply it and hit your primary aim.
Perfect. Now, how can people connect with you? You're on Facebook.
Well, I don't have anything formal, but Facebook, connect with me on Facebook.
Are you on any other social channels?
I'm on Instagram, but I don't know how you really connect with people on Instagram. Can you on Instagram?
I mean, you can send them a message.
Yeah.
So we can follow you on Instagram and Facebook.
Right.
Do you know what those handles are? I can include them in the show notes too.
Yeah,
so
why don't you do that?
I'll include links. So
It's some version of my name, right? Ken Goodrich.
Yeah, we'll find you. Thank you so much for coming out today.
Hey, thanks for having me, and thank you. You've been a big part of our success, and
Oh, thanks.
I'm glad that we continue to share and have a great relationship all these years.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for listening today. And if we brought you any value, please like, subscribe, and share the podcast. Also, make sure to connect with us on Facebook. Our Facebook group is Scrappy Entrepreneurs. And on Instagram, the.scrappy.entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Paula Y. Until next week, stay scrappy.